Hello and welcome everybody as you're getting settled in here. We're going to get it a few minutes for everybody to get going, get your cup of coffee, cup of tea for those of you in Asia. Or if you're joining us from the US, we grab a beer. It's after hours, so come and enjoy. We're going to have some great conversation today. So we're just going to give it a few more minutes here. And as we're waiting, I'm just going to go over a few things with you. As you can see, it is virtual harvest. This year has been a little bit of an interesting year with COVID and some of the challenges surrounding that. And so YCH has taken a lot of effort and time to really bring that harvest experience to brewers around the world, not just those of you that have traveled or are able to travel to Yakima every year, but this gives an opportunity to show what harvest is like in the Yakima Valley to brewers across the world and hop enthusiasts. You can either be a brewer or a beer lover, and we're going to share what it's like in the Yakima Valley during one of the most exciting times of the year. Harvest had just started for us, so as I was up in Yakima today, we saw plenty of bales coming into our facilities straight from the hop farms. Right now we have some Centennials, Simcoe, Sabro starting to come in, so it's starting to ramp up and get very exciting here in the Valley. Well, my name is Madison Brownlee, and some of you may know me from working over in Asia a little bit, but if you don't, I am happy to welcome you here today on behalf of Yakima Chief Hops. Just a few things to go over as we get started here and during this webinar. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to ask them in the Q&A session at the bottom section of your screen. This will allow all of the panelists and speakers to then see your questions, and we can work on getting them answered. We'll also have a Q&A session towards the end, but this is a rather informal talk, so we can be sure to answer those questions throughout as well. And as I mentioned, giving a view of harvest this year, YCH has decided to do what we're calling virtual harvest, which is going to give you a good look at not only harvest, but the industry, what goes into it, and breweries and markets from around the world, such as today, we're going to be focusing on an Asia region. And we would encourage you to visit this site at virtualharvest.com, where you can go ahead and see our schedule. We will be having sessions every weekday throughout the month of September. So check out our calendar and see which talks you can make and want to come and join us for. As you can see, we're going to be having plenty of time to tour you through farms, where we go through some of our grower-owner farms and some of the uniquenesses that go into the valley this time of year. We'll also be interviewing brewers from around the world and learning more about some of their challenges during this year, as it has been a bit of a challenging year with COVID-19 for everyone, and how they've overcome that. A lot of people are actually seeing some increases in their sales due to everybody being at home, so you never know. And we're also going to look at some of the new hop varieties that have come out, the process behind that with HBCs and experimentals, the supply chain, and a lot of different areas that go into harvest and supplying hops around the world. And again, if you're joining us from other parts of the world, we do have specified sessions that will be in other languages as well, so keep an eye out for those. We have some in Spanish, and there will be some hosted in Europe and China as well. So connect with your local sales managers there or YCH representatives if you have any questions. We also, for those of you that may not be able to access YouTube, we have what's going to be called the Whova app, which is going to allow you to access any of our videos as well. So during that, you can go ahead and download the app either on your smartphone or you can access on your desktop. The Whova app is going to allow you to see our full schedule, our live sessions, and also the recordings. So feel free to check that out. Again, if you don't have access to YouTube for any reason, please go to our website and direct yourself towards the Whova app section. with that being said, we will be discussing today some exciting news in the industry in Korea. As we're going through, we'll be able to, this session obviously is live, so we're going to be taking questions and speaking real time with everyone. So as you're getting settled in here, get ready for a great time as we're going to be joining in conversation and learning more about the industry. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to my fellow colleagues that are going to be over in Asia for you. We have our VP of Asia Sales, Percy Lamb, online, and we also have Jim Lambert online with us as well. So they'll be popping in and saying hello. And we will be speaking with Kabrew, JJ Park from Kabrew, and Kabrew is one of the leading craft breweries in Korea. So with that being said, grab your tea, grab your beer, and get ready for a great time. Thank you. Jim, I think you're muted there, so we'll get you unmuted here.
There we are. Apologies. Had a few technical issues, but we're solved. And good morning to everyone. JJ, good morning to you. Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you all for attending. My name is Jim Lambert. I'm the Director of Business Development for Yakima Chief in Asia. My colleague, Mr. Percy Lamb, is our VP of Sales. And of course, you know Madison from earlier. I'd like to take this special moment to introduce our guest for today. It's Mr. J.J. Park, or Jung-Jin Park. He is the CEO of Kabrew Brewery and will be the subject of our interview. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of background. He's got a very unique background, and we'll talk about this. He has a background in chemical technologies. He also studied at the University of Rochester and got his MBA with a focus in finance and accounting. But something that is of particular interest is JJ is the CEO of the family business. It's one of the oldest ham businesses, if not the oldest in Korea. And he started out there, and that's something that is of particular interest to me. He has segued into the brewing business, which Mr. Percy will ask the question in a second. But also, JJ is deeply involved with Korea Craft. He started off as the vice chairman for the Korea Craft Brewers Association, and in March of this year, he was named chairman of that, and he's very passionate about that, and I'll ask him about that later on. But with further ado, I'd like to welcome JJ. Thank you so much, and turn it over to Percy for the first question, please.
Morning, JJ.
Morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Yeah, I know you, for maybe at least 5 to 6 years, right?
Right. 5 years.
5 years. The first time, when I see you, you told me at that time, your family business is making ham and sausage,
Right.
And
Correct.
I like that, you're a former banker and have a prestigious, MBA. So just the first question is, what made you want, to enter the brewing business, and how did you decide, to acquire the Kabrew?
Yeah. Actually, after graduating my MBA, I worked for financial companies, as you mentioned, such as Samsung Securities and the Citigroup over 10 years. So at those companies, I worked as an M&A banker, as well as a specialist for sales of derivative products.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2013, I decided to join my family's business, as you mentioned, ham and sausage company,
Mm-hmm.
named Jinju Ham.
Mm-hmm.
And currently, I run Jinju Ham as CEO with my brother. And
Mm-hmm.
although Jinju Ham is the oldest and one of the largest manufacturing company, ham manufacturing company in Korea, with stable performance, it faced fierce competition with the large companies. And my brother and I thought we need some new business to ensure the sustainability of the company. So while we are searching for new business area, we met the founder of Kabrew in 2014, and we realized that craft business is very attractive because beer and sausage can create perfect match, and it is growing business anyway. So we see huge potential to grow in Korea and globally. So we decided to acquire Kabrew in 2015 and run the company so far.
I see. Because, I do see, a lot of, restaurant, in the state, in US, like in Europe, they pairing up, those, food and drinks now. So
Right.
is it this will give the idea, why you want to do it? Huh? Good. Yeah. So the second question is, I do see, this logo.
Right.
Is is a Kumihu, right?
Right.
So I think probably, some of, our participants, don't know what it is. Okay. Yeah.
Sure.
It is a nine-tailed fox, I believe. Okay. So I know,
Right.
your company logo is using this one. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Can you explain, what does it mean? Yeah. What's the reason behind using
Sure.
this as a logo?
Yeah, as you mentioned, symbol of Kabrew is a fox, as you can see here. And the tail of fox looks like a hop. Yeah, and it really means, it really symbolizes a hop as a brewing company as well.
I
And
see.
yeah, in addition, it also means a fox with 9 tails, as you mentioned, which was mystical creature in Korean old stories. So Kumyo means 9-tailed fox in Korean.
Okay.
So in Korean myths, 9-tailed fox appears in the piping time of peace, and it makes people happy and lucky. So it is also known that the 9-tailed fox is very good at transformation. So for example, it transforms itself to beautiful woman and marry with superhero in Korean old stories or something. So as Kabrew believes that the most important value for craft beer is diversity, and the varieties of beer can make people happy. So we thought Kumio, a genius of transformation, can show our value and identity very well. So this is why we chose Kumio as a symbol.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So since, you are one of, the top craft brewing, in Korea, yeah. And can you tell us, what type of beer style, that is most popular and that, you make, and also how you do it, to make it success?
Sure. It seems many of Korean people is not familiar with craft beers with strong hop flavor yet. So the most popular style in Korea looks like Weizen or Belgian wheats yet. So with the good drinkability. So in that area, Jeju beer, the Jeju wheat ale is probably the most popular beer in Korea. And I heard they increased their sales volume dramatically in this year on back of lower price. And for IPA or Hoppy beer, Kabrew's Gangbokgung is most popular beer, which also emphasizes drinkability with hoppy flavor. So Gangbokgung is this one. You can see. Can you see?
Is it the
Put
IPA?
it in front of JJ. You want to put a beer in front of you like this. There you go. Perfect.
Yes. So it is Session IPA, which we launched through one CVS chain in Korea last year. And actually, when we launched introduced Gyeongbokgung last year, our original plan was to sell about 300,000 cans for 7 months because we launched it this year last June in 2015. But the result was about we sold 1 million cans, which tripled our expectation. So we were very happy about the success and realized that Korean people, beer lovers, want to good beers with reasonable price through retail channels. So that also affect our, strategy in the future.
I see. Okay.
We had a question come in through the app as well on that line. How long have you been brewing, as we're talking about beer and brewing here?
So Kabrew was founded in year 2000, so it is almost 20-year company. And we acquired this company in 2015. So I run this company for 5 years as a management. But I am not good at brewing, actually, by myself.
But your brewers are very good at brewing because you brew
Yeah.
quite here.
Yeah, they are.
Percy, may I ask a question back to something that you asked at the very beginning that interests me? And I think people listening now and that others that will watch the recording is that you were observing the industry from a financial perspective. You joined your family business and something diversity led you into brewing.
Right.
And now you're the CEO. I know you're with your brother on your the FAM company, but also you're the Kabrew. What are some lessons, JJ, you have learned that are applicable from running the family business to acquiring a business and then incorporating? I know the ham company has a very strong culture, and I looked at your list of 10 things that the company does that you believe. How have you been blending the culture of the two companies? And does that very much interests me, JJ?
Yeah, actually, I think craft beer business is also it is craft beer, but it is also the core business is manufacturing company as well. So the Jinjuem is one of the large, and Jinjuem is the oldest ham manufacturing company, which has over 55 years of history. So we have the manufacturing people there who focuses on the stable quality and which value the quality the most important factor. So in that sense, Kabrew and the Jinjuem can communicate with the value for the quality, and they think the Kabrew is also trying to realize the one taste everywhere as a manufacturing company and as a craft beer company. So I think that kind of value can, I mean, share between Jinjuem and the Kabrew.
Okay. The other thing is, I understand, your brewery, is located, quite far, from the Seoul downtown, right? But, your brew pub is, of course, located in the downtown area in
Right.
Danan, I believe. Okay. Yeah. Can you tell us, more, about this type of arrangement?
Yes, actually, can you hold on a sec? Sorry.
Okay.
Although we have two breweries in Gapyeong, which is about 1 hour distance from Seoul, we newly opened our brew pub in Seoul area in last November. And we aim to achieve two goals by opening our new brew pub. First one was it is a flagship store that shows our brand identity to our customers. As Kabrew becomes B2C company, which distributes its beers through retail channel, we believe that it is very important to communicate with our customers directly and show our brand identity. Second, a brew pub plays a role as an R&D center of Kabrew. We believe that, as I mentioned, the diversity is one of the most important aspect for the craft beer company and want to challenge as many beer as possible. But it was very difficult for us to test many experimental beers with our existing facilities due to large scale of our existing plants. So we wanted our brew pub plays a role as a pilot facility for our new beer. So actually our goal was well achieved because we brewed 6 new beers from our brew pub for past 8 months, and 4 of them got award from Korean International Beer Award last month. So I think it is very good, circulation that we test our new beer with a small scale at our brew pub, and we get feedback from our clients at the brew pub. And if the customer like it, we move it to the Gapyeong Brewery and brew it in a large scale. So I think that kind of circulation makes very happy, efficient for us to launch a new beer in the future.
Oh, okay. So the other question is, what percentage, is the can sales, and what percentage of the beer, go to the cakes, and sell in the bar? Is it mostly, sell, in the cans, through the convenience store?
Last year, our sales, 76% of our sales came from the pub and bars. and
really?
only 24% was can. But that was because our can capacity, production capacity was not that big last year. But we tripled our can beer facility, capacity this year, early this year. So this year, I believe maybe 30% from pub and bars and 70% from the cans through retail center. And it is also because of the COVID-19 situation, because Korean
Yes.
people doesn't go to bars and pubs.
Okay. Yeah. Because we do see, the can sales, in other markets, it's really going up. Okay. While, all the restaurant and bar, they close. Okay.
Yeah, that is correct. It is same in Korea.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
JJ, I'm gonna ask you two questions, and we've had a question from the Q&A about, and I know the answer because I work with you, but I'd be curious. One of the question is, what type of hops do you like to currently use? And I want to make sure I give justice to the question. Is what's the most popular type of hop used in Korean beer, which obviously we know there's plenty. And then that would be part one, JJ. And then part two would be to you specifically. What hop do you enjoy most drinking in the beer, in your beer or in other beers, but presumably your beers?
Yeah, we use most popular pops such as Citra, Centennial, Simcoe, Mosaic, everything, as you know. And probably I think the most popular hop in Korea is Citra, and I think it is similar within the globally, right?
The largest acreage.
Yeah, right.
Or it ain't even a variety.
Right. And I like many hops, I also, of course, I like Citra, and I also like Sorachi. Yeah, we don't have beer with using Sorachi hops yet, but I like it. And I recently tried Saban hops, something. It also tastes like Sorachi, I guess. But anyway, I like it as well.
Do you just to add, just because of that question and because the question that was asked, do you see in your brew pub? You and I were talking the other day about what does the craft beer drinker look like in Korea? Talk a little bit about that, about the what drives the flavors, the profiles that you like to brew. I think that's interesting for our global audience to hear about.
Right. As I mentioned, the craft beer market in Korea is not that large so yet, and most of Korean craft drinker or beer drinker is not familiar with the beer with strong hop flavor yet, I guess. So most popular beer style such is, I guess, the Weizen or the Belgian wheat style, which is drinkability, and IPAs or sour ale, it is not yet, popular. But the craft beer market is growing a little bit and very fast and recently. So I guess the craft beer with a strong hop flavor or sour beer style will be popular as well in the future, but not yet, I guess. So for last year, we believe that 1.5%, the craft beer has market share of 1.5% versus total beer market in Korea. So it is not that, big yet. But we estimate that the market grows over 30% annually every year. So we believe that in 2024, the craft beer market will be around 7% of beer market in next 5 years or something.
That's fantastic growth, JJ. Just with respect to what you just said, when people come to Kabrew's Brew Pub and they ask a question, tell me about your beers, how does your staff go about educating or discussing the beers on your menu board with someone who's never had an IPA or a sour? What type of in-house education do you work with, JJ?
So for the customers who are visiting our brew pub, the first question we ask is, are you familiar with craft beer? So if they say no, recommend the Pilsner or Weizen, which is, easy drink beer. But if they heavy drinker, we recommend recently the sour beers. We brewed two sour beer from our brew pub, which uses the Korean rice, and it tastes really good. So we also got the award on that beer as well. So we are very proud of it. So we recommend those beers. For the brewers at the brew pub, they are trying to brew the very experimental beers because they want to be as creative as possible. So one of recent beer was brewed with the soy sauce and black rice
Wow.
and some kind of garlics or something. So he tried to, make the balance of beer, and we called it the black rice sour beer, and it tastes really good. So anyway, we are trying because we have large facilities, and that facility produce, normal and more popular beers. So as a pilot facility and R&D center of our company, Brewpub tries to brew many experimental beers actually.
Do you find many of the people coming in after they ask the question, would they like a tour of the brew pub to see the pilot facilities?
Yeah, actually we do have tours, and we are doing it twice a month or something. And so that includes tour of our facility. The facility is not that big, so it takes only 10 minutes or something. And so we explain the history of craft beer and make our customers to find out the beer style they like. So we are giving them explain them the style of many beers and give them beers to taste and try to make them find their own style beer.
Nice.
It's kind of 1 hour program, and they like it.
Hey,
That's
JJ,
fantastic.
I have a question, regarding, for the market growth. You just mentioned that, the market share, for the club, in Korea is around 1.5%. And then you do expect, it grows very fast, So is it really easy, for some newcomer, who want to establish, a club brewery, in Korea? Is it so complicated or easy to do it? What type of license? Does the government support it? Or?
Yeah, license, it is not that difficult, and the entry barrier is not that high, I guess. But as I explained, we expect that the Korean craft beer market will grow very fast, but we believe that most of growth will come from the retail market at the buy-in cost. So to have a brewery which can produce cans or bottles in large scale, we need large resources, and we need to have we spend a lot. So I would say to get a license, it is not that difficult, but to have a large factory which can produce cans and bottles beer in a large scale, it is not that easy, I guess.
Okay.
Just with respect to that, JJ, because a lot of people here listening, particularly, is moving through the retail or the convenience stores. What's your biggest challenge what's your biggest challenge of dealing with the retail side of your distribution?
I think it is about the facility. Production facility. as I mentioned, we experienced great success last year with this beer, and we produced about 150,000 cans a month last year, but
Wow.
we only could cover one CVS with that amount, with that volume. So even if we experienced great success for this beer at one CVS store in Korea, we cannot produce anymore because we have a limited facility. So, and if we want to increase our sales volume and increase our production volume, it costs a lot of money. So most of craft brewery in Korea is still small company yet. So they have limited resource to invest for the facility. So they cannot distribute their beer through retail stores, although the demand is there. So they only can produce keg beers in a small scale and sell it through the pub and restaurant. But to have bottling or canning machine, it costs a lot of money. So they have hard time to getting funds from outside.
Interesting. So even if you added another retail chain, you're limited by the production. Therefore,
Right,
consider the capital expenditures that you want to
right,
grow the
right.
business. That's interesting. That's just Percy, if you don't mind, I'm going to transition because I think with what he's explained is going to be a good point to maybe with obviously the last 6 months, COVID coming along and the disruption of your business model. Tell us a little about what's going on in Korea, how it's disrupted your business model, and obviously we've all read the papers the last few days. We don't know, and just that would be a good to discuss kind of the last 15, 20 minutes is talk about COVID and how it's disrupted the model.
Yeah, I think it is almost similar globally, but Korean craft brewers also have experienced very difficult times due to COVID-19 for past 6 months. So many people worried about being impacted by COVID-19 and hesitate to visit pub and restaurants where craft beers are mainly sold. As I mentioned, only a limited company can produce can or bottle beer, and most of brewers can produce only keg beer in Korea. For example, we have about 140 craft brewers in Korea, but only, I guess, less than 20 of them can produce can or bottle beer. So others, 120 craft brewers only have keg beers. So you can imagine how they feel difficulty, right? They only can distribute their beer through restaurant and pubs, but nobody there. So they have, their difficulty was really, really huge. So, and their sales volume decreased sharply due to COVID-19. So in order to overcome the situation, craft brewers tried to activate the delivery orders through Uber Eats app, Uber Eats style app, and push the government to allow online sales of craft beer, which is still not allowed yet. So as a chairman of the Korea Craft Brewers Association, we talked a lot with the government, but they still refuse to allowance of the online sales of craft beer yet. Actually, any alcohol except traditional one is allowed to sell through online in Korea yet.
So do you think, the trend, will be going on after if, the government will support, the online sales, for the beer? Yeah. Because we do see, in the other market, in Europe, in US, the online sales, is really going very fast. Although still very small, but the growth rate, is tremendous. Okay. A lot of people, they are looking on, the online sales as well.
All right. Yeah, I think online sales is trend globally. So in like in the long term, Korean government will also allow online sales. But I think that most important issue is timing. as I mentioned, most of small craft brewers in Korea is suffer from the sharp decrease in sales volume. So I mean, they cannot survive till maybe next year if the situation is still, I mean, like this in for next few months or something like that. So we pushed the government very hard, but they also have their own stories saying that they are worried about the drinking of young child, so age under 20. So they are worried about the young people order the liquor through online and drink it. So anyway, so they have their own stories, so it is not easy for them to allow the online sales yet. So we are fighting with that actually. But yeah, as Percy mentioned, the online sales of everything like food and every other items grow tremendously in Korea as well. So it is, I mean, matter of time, I guess.
Right.
With your just with obviously, as you mentioned, a lot of breweries around the world, very similar situation. Even here in Tennessee, legally, we just allowed not online but curbside delivery, home delivery, which is a big deal here in the South. Yeah. But I know, just kind of want to with I know you're leading the charge with that in Korea because you're the chairman of the Korea Craft Beer Association. What are some of the initiatives that you're representing your membership going to the government to help the breweries work through this time, so they can survive and thrive? What are some other things you guys are doing with the association, JJ?
You mean, I cannot understand the question yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, no. When you and I discussed, we wanted to discuss the work within the Korea Craft Association, and lately it's to help the breweries survive. So you're working with the government on online sales. What are some other measures or initiatives you're doing to try to help the breweries survive during this time?
So tax is one of the most important issue for Korean craft brewers, and we have huge change in liquor tax beginning this year. So far tax was so high, so the craft beer should be sold in very high price due to tax, but the tax system is changed from beginning of this year. So Korean craft beer can be sold in a reasonable price through the market. So tax is one of the most important topic that we talked about the government, saying that thank you for lowering tax, but the small craft brewers still need your help due to COVID situation and something like that. So we need to change it. And from next year, the OEM manufacturing will be allowed as well. The OEM means one small craft brewer can order other brewery which has the canning or bottling machine. So even a small brewery doesn't have canning or bottling machine, they can order other brewery to produce the small brewery's can or bottle and can distribute through the market. It's not yet allowed in Korea. So
really?
Yeah, in Korea, in United States, there's a lot of contract brewers, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
But it is not allowed in Korea yet. But it will be changed from next year. So there can be one initiative that small craft brewers can distribute their beers through retail channels by OEMs production.
Okay. OEM is very common, in other Asia areas.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
China, wherever, Southeast Asia is very common.
Right.
Yeah. So do you think, the macro brewery, the free macro brewery in Korea will become one of the country brewery?
Maybe,
That's
yeah.
good. Good. Yeah.
JJ, just another with if obviously we all are it's sooner or later COVID we get a vaccine, things will start, you know, I'm not smart enough to know if this is the new normal or whatever, but if you look out over the next forecast 1 to 2 years, what would you say the Korea craft beer industry will look like in a couple of years?
Yeah, I think the impact by COVID-19 situation will be sustained for the time being. So craft beer market through pub and restaurant will be very difficult in next 1 year, 1 or 2 years, I guess. But sales through retail increase dramatically in Korea thanks to 2 factors. The first one, young people more and more drink at home, not at the restaurant or pubs after they leave office. So it is, I mean, change of drinking culture in Korea. So that'll be one factor. So, and one other factor is, as I mentioned, the liquor tax. So due to the lower tax, craft beer brewers can sell their beers at a reasonable price, so they can compete with the large brewing company and the large lager beers. So those 2 factors will be the very important points that will drive the future of Korean craft beer market. So we believe that the sales through retail stores, such as CVS and Hypers, will lead the future growth of craft beer in Korea due to these changes I explained. And actually, growth rate of retail market in 2019 was almost 3 times over the growth rate of pubs and restaurants. And more, so the change in the drinking culture and the liquor tax will lead the growth of the Korean craft beer market through retail stores. Yeah, so KCBA, so Korean Craft Beer Association, estimate that the Korean beer market will grow at least by 30%. Craft beer market will grow by 30% for the next 5 years. So we'll be quadruple to $300 million in 2024.
Well, that's exciting, and you definitely are very well positioned to capture that. And
yeah, I think so. Yeah, we are trying.
It's impressive just to get to know you and watch your business, and also the chance for you to explain and give insight to the people on viewing. And then when this becomes a recording, it'll be available for Europe and for the United States, and for a lot of brewers here that don't have a chance to know what's going on. It's comforting to know that their colleagues around the world are also in challenging times, but you're also really taking advantage of these challenging times, and you have dual roles. You're CEO of Kabrew, but you're also KCBA. So you're really working with the industry, working with Kabrew. So it's to make sure that the breweries are taken care of. But
right.
Madison, or Nicole, we've got several participants. Should we open up for some questions, or we're closing in on 45 minutes? And I know JJ I know he's very busy, and he takes time for his day for us, and I don't want to take any more of his time than necessary.
Right.
Yeah, we'll open it up for a few questions here, and we'd also like to remind you, as Jim said, this session will be recorded, so feel free to come back once it's uploaded to virtualharvest.com. You can go ahead and share this with your friends and local brewers that are interested in learning more about the craft beer market in Korea. And you can also access all of the recordings through the Whova app as well, so feel free to check that out. We'll give it a minute here, and if we have any closing thoughts as well. I know from personal experience, it's been a little sad not to go back to Korea this year, because they do have a very vibrant craft beer market over there that is just continuing to grow, evolve, and thrive. And so I'm excited to see in the midst of these challenges, as JJ's explained, there is a lot of growth still, and a lot of people still very supportive of the industry in Korea.
Right.
So I thank you, JJ, for your time today. It doesn't look like we have any lingering questions. We must have done a good job at answering everybody's questions along the way.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to hand it over to Percy Lamb to close us out with a few remarks here.
Yeah, I think, thank you, JJ, attending, this session. I think, it helped, a lot of guys, to understand, the market, in Korea, particularly, under the difficult situation in the COVID-19,
Right.
Hope, we can all, helping each other to continue to grow the business everywhere.
Yes. Right.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, JJ.